Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network. Great to have you with us on the program today. Our special guest, as mentioned, Iris Crenshaw, author of the book City Girl. Iris was raised in the notorious Red Hook projects of New York City. Iris's mother dictated that Iris go to schools that her friends didn't attend, had her follow a strict regimen of schoolwork and chores, and taught her through example to roll over and flatten any obstacles in her path. A tough childhood, to be sure, but Iris, unlike many of her peers, went on to college and to this day lives as their mother taught her to do. Iris, welcome to the program. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Rick. It's very good to be here with you today.
I mentioned the book called City Girl, an award-winning book. Congratulations on that. A Best Books Award finalist for USA Book News and Indie Excellence Finalist Book Awards. You're doing excellent with the book. Appreciate you coming on the program to talk about it. And I want to begin by talking about your mother and the role she had informing you not only as a child growing up and going off into college, but even today. And I said strict, that may be even an understatement. I mean, she really was controlling you and making sure that you were doing the right things, and it certainly paid off later in life. Talk about her role in forming who you are today.
Well, her role, she had a very strong, very visible role. Every age of my life, she was there making sure that I was on a straight path. I still had fun as a child and as a teenager, but she made sure that I was well-grounded. I went to Catholic schools, I went to private schools, and I went to some public schools as well. She was very strict. I couldn't go out to parties. I couldn't stay outside after dark, and certainly I didn't use any bad language. I studied after school. I studied a little bit on the weekends, studied during the summer. I got very good grades, and I was very well-mannered as a child, very disciplined.
The book is City Girl, an autobiography. Iris Crenshaw, our guest on This Week in America. Would you be who you are today without that upbringing?
Absolutely not. I would not be. I compare myself with some of the newer generations that I see, and I would absolutely not be like them.
You know, it's interesting because I think now with the economy and the way things are going, in fact, I read studies recently that chances are where you grow up is where you are going to be. And I'm sure there are a lot of people listening to the program that could use some advice as to how to make that not be the case, that you can actually grow out of that environment and go on to something and get a college degree and make something out of your life. What was it, the determination that kept you going?
The determination was my mother, because she made sure that I studied, got good grades, and was not hanging out with the other teenagers that were hanging out in the area that I lived in. She made sure that I applied to colleges my junior year in high school. She was determined that I was going to college. It wasn't up to me. She was determined that I was going to go to college. I also had to apply for loans and scholarships my junior year.
You know, and you mentioned you're going to different schools. This was not like the family had a lot of money, discretionary income where they could send you to these schools. This came at great sacrifice.
It did. But, during those times, it didn't, the prices of schools were nothing like it is now. But it did take some discipline on my mother's part to put aside money to pay tuition for the Catholic schools that I went to. My father paid for the private school. And then, of course, we didn't have the money for me to continue going to private schools and Catholic schools throughout my entire high school. So the last couple of years of my high school, I went to public school.
And summer programs played a very important part in your education. You talk a lot about those. And sometimes you look at summer school and it's like, is it really worth sending them to summer school? Is it time just for them to relax and regroup a little bit? But it really did a lot in forming who you are today.
Yes, it did. And I normally believe that summers are for vacations, especially for children and teenagers. But my mother had an opportunity to send me to what's called the IGC Summer School, Intellectually Gifted Children. And I went to one summer school session. It was an excellent session. It taught, more advanced math and science. And I also went to summer school at used to be Boys High School. They changed it to a girls' school, a co-ed school. The first summer they changed it, I went there to take French language class.
You're listening to This Week in America. Our guest on the program today is Iris Crenshaw, author of the book City Girl, an autobiography. You can go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us, and link on to get the information from Amazon on the book. It's available at Amazon. Alex said it's an award-winning book. And also in the book, you talk about role models. And you had a job, one of the first jobs you had with the South Brooklyn Community Corporation. In fact, in the beginning of the book, you do a shout-out to your executive director at the time. What was it that Thelma taught you, the lessons you learned from that job?
She was a very strong role model. She was one of few women who ran an organization during that time period. She was well respected. She was very strict. Her husband was a police officer. Turns out later on her two sons became police officers as well. She was very strict. She was in command, and she kept everyone in line, the managers, the employees. And I was very impressed with her, how she handled herself, but even with her being strict, she was still very nice and personable. And I was very impressed with her, and I, decided that I was going to take on some of those aspects that she had, along with the aspects my mother had.
When you started to look into colleges, you always wanted to go to UCLA. You thought you had a chance of getting in there, yet that didn't work out. And you say in the book, City Girl, it was sort of the first time when it finally hit you that not everybody is looking out for my well-being, my good, my welfare. I'm going to have to take care of this myself.
Yes. I applied to UCLA, and I didn't get in. I was told that I needed to get A's in math and English my senior year. And I did talk to my instructors and share that with them. I worked very hard. I believe I should have gotten A's, and it's also my belief that they purposely did not give me A's in those classes. I worked very hard, and I've always had A's and B's all along, but I, for some reason, wanted to share that with them, but it didn't work out. I didn't get the support from them that I needed.
At the time you're growing up, we're looking at late 60s, early 70s. So when you look back on that, and we're going to talk in the education and the jobs that Iris had, not a whole lot of women doing what you wanted to do. And certainly not a lot of African-American women doing what you wanted to do. Talk about the college days at Dayton, and then we'll talk about the first job.
Yes, in Dayton, Ohio, University of Dayton, I started out in pre-med, and then I changed to medical technology. Then I changed to chemical engineering technology. I have a 4-year degree, a Bachelor of Technology in chemical engineering technology. And when I graduated, there weren't very many women in my classes, and certainly not very many African-American women or African-American men. In fact, the year that I graduated, I was the only African-American woman that graduated from the School of Engineering Technology, in the Division of Engineering Technology. And there was one or two black men, African-American men, that graduated at the same time as me. So the numbers were very low.
You get out your first job, you say you were harassed, and it really was not a good experience.
It wasn't a good experience. It started out as one, but then it turned out that my employer really wanted me to do the things they wanted me to do, and it's sort of indicative of a lot of employers. They want to control the employees' lives and private decisions, and I was not accustomed to that at all, and that didn't work out.
I think they wanted you to get involved in their pension program, and you didn't want to.
Yeah, after my first job, I didn't know anything about it. My first job, first income, I didn't want to put money somewhere that I wasn't familiar with, and they actually began to harass me about it.
Yeah, at that point, you're not worried about, maybe you should be, but you're not worried about pension at that point. You're just trying to pay the bills and get some gas in the car and get some food.
Exactly.
City Girl, an autobiography, is the book written by Iris Crenshaw, our guest on the program. The book is available at Amazon.com. You can go to our website and link on directly to Amazon to get that information. Get your master's degree in Indianapolis, and you went to work for Cummins. And you said, actually, when you're looking back, that probably was the best job you had.
When I went to, yes, it was. It was very much the best job I had. It was private sector. And they were well ahead of a lot of corporations in terms of the way the company was structured. They had a safety and health program that far exceeded all the other companies in the area. And I started out there in the safety and health field. and they sent me to university training, a college in Ohio, to get some additional training. It was just for 2 weeks, but other companies didn't do that. And we did a lot of air quality testing. I learned a whole lot there, and then I received a promotion and became the safety manager for the facility. And I managed 7 buildings within the main engine plant for Cummins Engine Company, and I had roughly 4 employees.
You know, it's interesting you talk in the book that a lot of the jobs that you pursued are basically male-oriented, and you always felt the men have the better job, in many cases, more interesting job. That's what I want to go after. For somebody out there who's in that position, what advice do you give them to knock down that barrier? If it's a job that you find you've got more male applicants than female, go ahead and apply for it anyway.
Yes, work hard. Know your business. Learn. Always be willing to learn, to take different courses internally and also externally. I've paid for courses myself. I've gone to seminars, free seminars, paid seminars, and I still do it. And I am not afraid to apply for positions where I know it's male-dominated. It's still that way a lot now in the area I'm in, physical security. There's a lot of men in the high positions and very few women.
Do you still see bias?
I see it all the time, unfortunately. It's still there.
We tend to think, we're in 2013 and maybe we've put all that behind us and we can go forward. Yet when you talk to people and you read some stories that are out there, it's like, I'm not sure we've made quite as much progress as we think that we have.
Correct. Yeah, we haven't.
City Girl, an autobiography. Our guest on the program is the author, Iris Crenshaw, award-winning book. Information at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. You can log on there, link on, and get information from Amazon. I want to talk because the book ends up where all this information, all this determination that you got from your mother really came back to help you in the end when you found out your mother was sick and you were trying desperately to deal with doctors and hospitals and try to get her care.
Yes, I had to really use my patience with the doctors and the hospitals. It was quite an experience, and I had to ask a lot of questions. I had to be there. I had to make sure that I knew what the plans were for her on a daily basis and make sure she was being cared for properly. And a lot of times when people have cancer, when they're dying, the hospitals just look at them as another dollar bill, unfortunately. So I had to be there, and it was a very difficult experience for me. Very difficult. You
talk about, in dealing with doctors and new doctors that come on the scene, and you say that's always sort of a red flag. You really need to watch through that. And you were more concerned that their interest was more in running tests on your mother that they could bill to insurance, to Medicare, than actually trying to find some way to help your mother.
Yes, they were. Even when they knew she was dying, they were still wanted to take x-rays of her back, x-rays of her chest. And I didn't understand why they wanted to do that. She was already in a whole lot of pain. So I just don't understand why they kept running tests every day.
In the beginning of the book, you talk about goal-setting, determination, again, some of the lessons that your mother taught you. Talk about that, because the lesson was establish a goal, and when you accomplish that, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. You have another goal, and you keep a series of goals, and you keep going forward.
Yes, and that's what I do. I always set goals for myself. I always have. And once I accomplish them, I look for my next set of goals to get me to the next level that I want to get to, and plot out a course, with a plan, whether it's to get additional training or to apply for certain positions or to get a mentor or whatever I have to do to be able to move myself to the next level.
Mentor is something interesting. We've talked about that a lot in the program. And some people think a mentor is only as you're beginning, as you're out of college and you find a mentor in whatever occupation you're going to pursue. Have you found through your career it's good to have somebody you can rely on throughout that career?
It's good to have someone to rely on, because every organization, every company, even federal governments, they have their own culture. They have their own way of doing things. They have their own procedures and processes, and they have their own way of thinking. And you need to be able to understand what that is. And sometimes you cannot see it. It's there. You can't see it. You think you know it, but you really don't.
You work for the federal government now. What type of relationship is that? What type of of job do you have? And is this something, because you've worked in the private sector as well, which do you like the best?
Well, I probably will say that I liked. Well, it's kind of hard.
You don't have to choose. Yes.
They've all been good for different reasons. The private sector holds you more accountable. If you aren't living up to, their standards and what they expect, then they will move you on out. So I like it for that reason. And, of course, the pay was certainly much better, and the benefits were much better. The federal government, I find that there are a lot of people, unfortunately, it goes back to the old cliche that, there are a lot of people there that I see that are not living up to their job expectations. And for that reason, I would say the private sector was better.
It's a fascinating book, an inspirational book. It's City Girl, an autobiography, a memoir written by Iris Crenshaw, our guest on the program. Iris, we'll have you back on the show. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk about the book. Again, I mentioned it's award-winning. It's available at Amazon. Excellent job, and I'm sure a lot of people will read this and find inspiration just like you did. Your mother will still live and inspire other people just like she did you.
Thank you so much, Rick.
You're most
for
welcome.
Having me.
It's our pleasure. You're listening to This Week in America on the Blue Funk Broadcasting Radio Network.